And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our panel discussion that most of you have been waiting for. And this panel discussion will be based on the theme that we have at the ICSDB 2025, and that is sustainable and digital business. And it is now time to introduce our panelists along with the moderator for the panel discussion, starting off with Tharindu Meepegama, Vice President of Infrastructure Oral IT. Tharindu Meepegama is a senior technology and infrastructure leader with extensive experience in IT strategy, systems architecture, and digital transformation. He currently serves as Vice President of Infrastructure at Oral IT, while also contributing as the Country Manager at GDCE. In addition to his corporate roles, he is the founder of iDawn Technologies, where he focuses on developing innovative technology solutions and nurturing emerging talent in the tech ecosystem. Next up, we have Rathika De Silva, Executive Director, UN Global Compact Network Sri Lanka. Rathika De Silva is the Executive Director of UN Global Compact Network Sri Lanka, a pioneer in corporate sustainability with extensive management experience in Sri Lanka and the region, while served on several management projects in Bangladesh, India, Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam. An expert in sustainability reporting, a strong strategist and a visionary leader, skilled in driving business transformation and growth. He is also an alumni of the University of Lucia, USA, University of Cambridge, UK, and the University of St. Gallen, Switzerland. And next up, we have Dhanujie Jayapala, General Manager of Environment Sustainability MAS Holdings. He is a chartered environmentalist accredited by the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment and holds a master's degree in sustainable development from the University of Sussex, complemented by a bachelor's in engineering with specialization in electrical and electronics engineering from the University of Peradeniya. As the head of environmental sustainability at MAS, Dhanujie Jayapala spearheads the country's strategy for decarbonization and environmental stewardship. Next up, we have our very own keynote speaker, Dr. Hossein Mohammadi, Senior Lecturer in Business Sustainability, Curtin University, Australia, with over 17 years of international experience across academia, industry, government, and non-profit sector, a fellow of the UK Higher Education Academy, and an award-winning educator. Dr. Mohammadi is recognized for innovative, inclusive teaching and his commitment to sustainable business practices. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our moderator for the panel discussion, and that is Dr. Shanta R. Yapa, Senior Academic Fellow. Dr. Yapa is an ex-banker with experience in diverse industry sectors. He is a fellow of the British Computer Society and a chartered logistician and a member of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. He is also a past president of the software chapter of the Federation of IT Industry in Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome our panelists along with our moderator for the panel discussion. Dr. Shanta R. Yapa, over to you.
Rochelle, it's a great pleasure to moderate this session. We have a very broad topic. The topic is digital and sustainable business, facts, facets, and fallacies. It's very open, and the challenge is where to pitch. 2 weeks back, Rathika, a group of students from SLIIT Business School who are undergraduates referred me the first draft of a journal article. In the very first paragraph, I found a word, radiative balance, which I had not read before. So I wanted to, now these are business school students, business undergraduates. So I wanted to study what this radiative balance is, to learn that the total amount of energy we receive from the sun and how much is radiated back to the environment or the space, it is disturbed with greenhouse gas emissions. And this is the problem we are facing right now. And the era where business school students were researching why people are leaving, employee turnover, job satisfaction, ladies and gentlemen, that era is gone. As one of the leading Sri Lanka's business schools, we have a plan to be the best in the region. We, as our Vice Chancellor, Professor Gamage mentioned, we are promoting interdisciplinary research. So we have a great audience tonight. If you are looking for numbers, we have just exceeded 200 in this small place. And out of that, we have about 80 CXOs. I do see some faces, and they include chairmen of leading companies and directors and owners of many organizations. Coming back to our own staff, 50 staff members from SLIIT Business School. We have 14 PhDs, we have 9 professors, and we do serious research, as our Vice Chancellor mentioned. So we invite the industry to interact with us to do research, impactful research. That is what we are always encouraged by our top management. Dr. Hossein, you mentioned about smooth immigration process. That's not an accident. The people who developed those solutions are in this forum, probably in the same table, okay? Although it takes seconds or minutes, your name, as they swipe the passport, your data is matched with Interpol database. It happens in seconds. We have such a crowd here to interact with. It's going to be a great event. The format of this discussion, we are trying our best to restrict the discussions to 40 minutes. Boring? Can't be. All of you will come across interesting topics. We have picked 8 different topics, basically key topics, which are emerging practices. They are trending words, I should say. People from the industry, you may pick some of them and try to implement. With the help of the university, we have engineering faculty, computing faculty, science and business. Please interact with us. You may be able to see results, okay? And researchers from our own university, there will be interesting topics for you to pick, collaborate with the industry, and go ahead. The format is, I'll be posing one question to each panel member. They will restrict their explanations to 4 minutes. If not, I will stop them. Agreed? And in the second round, we'll be trying to see how digital technologies can improve what we do in this space. Okay? So that's the format. My first question goes to Dhanujie. Before that, a small story. We were looking for a lady who is taking care of sustainability in his company, MAS Holdings. Unfortunately, she is not available these days, gone abroad, and we got a replacement. I did not bother. They said Dhanujie will take it over to see that it's this gentleman, so we lost the gender balance. Please forgive us for that. Ideally, we would have had, let's say, 1 or 2 ladies in the panel. Dhanujie, with due respect to your industry, he's representing MAS Holdings, one of the leading apparel companies in the country, and your industry is contributing heavily to forex income of the country. I guess #1 forex earner to the country and the biggest employer. With due respect once again, fashion industry or clothing industry is criticized. Audience, will you agree with me? Globally, it is criticized. Why? We produce and buy about 80 billion to 120 billion pieces of clothes every year. How do I remember these figures? I'm not looking any notes. Global population into 10 times or 15 times. So I'm repeating the figure, 80 billion to 120 billion pieces of clothes we consume. And ladies and gentlemen, only 1% is recyclable. Okay? The balance goes as landfilling material. So the make, dispose culture or practice is now transforming to circular economy. Could you please explain how circular economic practices are, let's say, happening here in Sri Lanka and especially in different industry sectors? Dhanujie?
Thank you, Dr. Shanta. First of all, giving me this opportunity, although he thought I was a lady. Looking at the apparel industry, obviously, things are in work. This linear model, let's be honest, it's easy for the businesses to move on, make revenue, make profits for everyone. But it comes at a cost, especially environmentally. So we are trying to move to a circular model. Getting a little bit academic, we look at circularity in two cycles. First is the biological cycle, and the other one is the technical cycle. So on the biological cycle, you try to extract value from the biochemicals into energy through biogas, and then go into more regenerative practices of farming and all of that. And I think one of the adverts here also spoke about regenerative farming, right? And that's it's something that's the industry is adopting. Then we are moving fast into regenerative farming, especially with natural fibers like cotton, right? There's a lot of demand happening right now. And the second one is on the technical cycle, right? So then it starts with reduce, reuse, recycle. So start with reduce the waste so that you do repairs, then get to recycle. So first, like to give a couple of examples on that. The first one probably from a Swedish company called Eaton. Had the chance to listen to them. They develop shirts, quite expensive, somewhere around $150 to $200 per shirt. But what their promise is, even after 50 washes, it has to look as new. So their compromise is they do not do certain colors that the washing cycles won't last. So their thinking is that they will deliver value to the customer, so they will use it for a longer time, so they do not have to buy more. Another example probably is Patagonia. Everybody has heard about that. It's an outdoor brand. So they do not promote selling. They promote reuse, or they do your own repairs and give that value to the customer. So the models are changing. Everybody is innovating. And on the recycling side, there's a lot of challenges. Probably we'll talk about it if we get a chance later. But MAS has invested on a couple of companies, one in synthetics and one is natural fibers. So startups still, but these hopefully will scale to solve the problems for the industry.
Okay, thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, it was about circular economic practices. Reduce, reuse and recycle is the motto. Agreed? So I suggest you to revisit these topics and try to implement, execute in your own organizations. That's the objective of today's discussion. And my dean, Professor Suren Peter, has given me clear instructions. Make it interactive. And you have to engage the audience. So you are not supposed to get disconnected. Agreed? Because I have to report to him on next Monday and answer. Shanta, what was that? It was very boring. No, it is not the case. I'm going to ask you a question now. If your subordinates are around, that means you are the boss, don't try to answer this question. Or if your boss is around in the same table, you may prevent answering this question. You may refrain from answering this question. My question is, we have diesel engines and petrol engines. Okay? Which engine emits highest amount of carbon dioxide? Whether it is petrol or diesel. My question is carbon dioxide emissions, which are damaging the environment. Okay? How many of you say it is the petrol engine emits higher amount of carbon dioxide? Any answers? Raise your hands. How many of you would claim that it is diesel engine that emits highest amount of carbon dioxide? Once again, if your subordinates are around, don't raise your hand. Well, the answer is you know. The petrol engine emits more carbon dioxide. Okay? Diesel engine is more efficient, it is energy efficient, and thermal efficiency is high. But there's a hitch. What is it? It emits a lot of nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is labeled as a high pollutant. High pollutant. And a company, this company is no other company than the world's biggest automobile manufacturer. I'm not going to name the company. The reason I forgot to mention at the beginning because I don't have any notes. I'm reading my memory. In the format, we are not going to advise Sri Lanka's government how to run the company. That's not our intention. We are not going to criticize any organizations. That's not in our agenda. This brand agnostic and this non-discriminatory kind of a discussion we are continuing with. Coming back to the example, world's biggest automaker about 10 years back manipulated emission data. What happened was diesel cars, when they checked them for emissions, they were within the nitrous oxide limits. But actually when you run, the nitrous oxide limits were 40 times higher. This goes as Dieselgate, the story. You can search in the internet later. So it's about greenwashing. Organizations are doing this to attract more customers, to hide the damage they create to the environment, and there are so many other stories. So the best person to talk about how greenwashing, how bad it is, and what kind of legislations are there in this part of the world, and what's happening in terms of greenwashing in this region, best person is Rathika. Am I correct?
Well, I wouldn't vouch for that. But I'm here, so I have to answer the question. And I have been given 4 minutes to answer that question, and I must say it took me, if you only saw that question, it took me 40 minutes to understand it and comprehend it the way he wants me to answer it. So I had to actually put together some notes to study how to answer this question. Of course, I know how to answer it, but let me just, in 4 minutes, do my very best. And I'm not going to read all of this for you. But what's important to understand is, I think all of us do understand what greenwashing is. But let me also tell you that greenwashing is not always deliberate. Because if you look at those companies that started working on in their environmental sort of strategies some years ago, they embarked on it with little understanding. Not a lot of understanding as they would do. There wasn't a scientific approach to it. Not everybody had that. They started with little understanding. And then they went forward with good intentions. Sometimes they looked at something that was done by someone else and they felt that was a good practice and they adopted that without realizing that that is not the best practice for their business. So it's not always intentional. So please understand that, because I think we need to be fair. Having said that, we also must understand that greenwashing is real in the business world and everywhere. Greenwashing fundamentally erodes trust. And also, it creates false perception of environmental progress, allowing companies to benefit reputationally without delivering the real impact. This has become a serious issue. And today, it is affecting consumers, it's affecting investors who invest in brands, who invest in companies, because they feel that these companies are a lot more advanced in their environmental management, and their promise, therefore, is accepted by the key stakeholders. This is not fair. This is not right. And as the keynote speaker today also addressed, I like to say that sustainability is not only about environment, it's not only about social, it's about governance. It's about environmental governance, it's about social governance, it's about economic governance. For business, if it doesn't make economic sense, it doesn't make sense for them to be in sustainability. I mean, look, business has to be in sustainability. But what I'm trying to explain is that you have to be there for a reason, because it should not hurt your business, but it should be able to, do better for your business. So greenwashing, sorry, I'm losing our time there, has become a serious issue, and now the regulatory frameworks are falling in place. The EU is very concerned. They have started to introduce, so has so many other countries, and the stock exchanges are also beginning to start to penalize businesses who are found guilty of greenwashing. And there are ways to identify even a claim, a simple claim as environment friendly or net zero has to be qualified. So therefore, UN Global Compact's 10 principle framework really guides companies and supports it with a new, or I would say it's not new, it's been a while now, for a few years, called Science-Based Targets Initiative. And Science-Based Targets Initiative is to prevent companies from falling into difficulty of greenwashing, because that sets a frame to help you to come up with your science-based solution towards setting a target to move towards it, and we guide them on it. So that's important, and today there is a solution for it. So that's one of the solutions, and there are many such solutions, and businesses are following that. So I want to stop at that because I think my 4 minutes are done.
Yeah. Thank you. If you exceed, I'll deduct time from the next round. Don't worry. Thank you. And the next question goes to you, Tharindu. Before that, let me keep the engagement with the audience. Is plastic always bad for the environment? You can raise your hands if it is bad. Well, there's a product that goes as air carbon. How many of you have read about air carbon? Well, sustainability issues of companies, they become responsibilities if they are due to your own negative externalities. Is that word too technical? Negative externalities are outcomes of your economic transactions if they are not accounted for. That means those bad things happening to the environment are not reflected in your profitability. They are a cost to the society and the environment. Negative externalities. If negative externalities, your negative externalities, they are responsibilities you organize. You have to resolve them. But at the same time, negative externalities of other companies can become opportunities to you. The best example is New Light Technologies, INC. It's a US-based company. You can search about them later. Why I'm highlighting it here, we have 80 plus CXOs in this forum. Don't think that sustainability issues are always costly to resolve. Other sustainability issues can become great business opportunities for you. In this case, what they did was they are into plastics. They are damaging the environment. They have to resolve it. At the same time, they found that many factories are discharging carbon dioxide. So they started collecting carbon dioxide and convert them into a special kind of plastics. It's a patented technology, and it is considered as carbon negative. And this is not a fairy tale. Their users are companies like Dell, Nike, and many other Fortune 500 companies. Why not we attempt to do such things here in Sri Lanka? The question to you is, ICT is basically considered as very eco-friendly. But gentlemen, it is not the case. ICT's carbon footprint is much bigger than global aviation industry's carbon footprint. Any new things we do in this space to reduce carbon footprint?
So thank you, Dr. Shanta. Before I come to the question, I just want to say from the keynote to what was talked about greenwashing and all of that, it's all connected and all very relevant, right? And now when we talk about energy footprint and carbon efficiency, most of the time we're talking about net zero, which is only one out of the 17 SDGs, right? But that is what we mostly focus on because that in general has the fastest financial return. And as you said, it's about business, right? You know, how you reduce your energy consumption, improve your efficiency, and then get higher profits, right? When we talk about the data center industry, actually in Sri Lanka specifically, right, our energy cost is relatively high. And from back in about 2013, our data center operators, companies that are building data centers and things like that have been using more efficient technologies, right? Things like efficient UPS, inverter ACs, you know, there's an additional cost to these things, but Sri Lankans are actually spending on those things because it leads to a lower OPEX, and by virtue, there is a reduced carbon cost on those things, right? And that's actually an advantage we have over our regional neighbors because they prioritize build cost and building cheaper rather than more efficiently. So in that sense, we are doing a pretty good job. Even with the economic crisis and catalyzed by that, now even most of the telco operators, our infrastructure providers, right? Their largest operating expense is energy, power, right? So they are also, I mean, you know, that was always the case, but they never wanted to make that shift to invest in renewables, battery storage and things like that. But the economic crisis, the fuel crisis, made them realize that this is the way forward. So now almost, I think, as of today, more than 40% of towers, cell sites have batteries and solar panels installed. And that is continuing. They're planning on doing that, right? So we're improving in that stage. However, as a country, as businesses, there's still much more to be done, right? Let's talk about in terms of governance and policy. At the moment, when we talk about the Paris Accord and achieving net zero, Sri Lanka's target for net zero is 2050. That's what we've declared, right? Whereas there are organizations and other countries that are looking more aggressively like 2030, right? Larger countries, countries that have more manufacturing. I understand there's a lot of factors around it, but still, we can be more aggressive. And part of that is that when we look at sustainability, when we look at net zero and things like that, at the moment in Sri Lanka, we have 19 policies for climate action. Only 4 laws, only 4 acts. And out of those 4, only 1 is actually about conservation, the Coastal Conservation Act. All the other 3 are formation of the Water Resource Board, formation of Sustainable Energy Authority. So there's a lot more to be done, right? That is on the governance side. Now, when we look at the corporate side, we all talk about reporting, being energy efficient and all of that, but we only look at mostly scope 1, right? What is our direct emission? We look at, okay, I'm buying this most efficient plant machinery, right? And that is going to save me on my carbon emissions in operations, but what about the carbon cost of importing it from wherever that it's manufactured? If you have a local alternative, or what is the material that goes into building that, right? Or making that, like what you mentioned about Dell and so on, using carbon zero plastics. So those are things that we can look at more and things where we need to improve, and businesses can sort of drive that by improving their efficiency, looking at options where they can report better, look at their scope 2s and things like that, and also bring their ecosystem of suppliers, customers. When a company registers a customer, they ask for audited financials, blah, 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 all of this. When you're registering a supplier, why not ask for their carbon footprint?
for that answer. My next question goes to Dr. Hossein. Dr. Hossein, we are talking about the triple bottom line. It is about profits, economic profits, and how we take care of the environment, the planet, and the next P is about people, basically the society. And a new P is added, that is purpose. Okay? I guess you have a story to talk about the new P, that is purpose, and it's about basically governance. Any explanations about how governance can improve sustainability?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Shanta. Yeah, I think all the panelists somehow addressed this, especially Mr. De Silva covered the governance aspect. I think the whole story of, I'm sure that you guys have already heard of the triple bottom line elements, the TBL, which is, in my opinion, quite misunderstood. You know, a lot of companies want to balance out their triple bottom line. You know, what does that mean? You know, this means that essentially they need a little bit of economic, a little bit of social, and a little bit of environment in their strategic planning to tick the box. So this question is so important because before putting things under economic, social, environment, we need to ask a very, very fundamental question: where we are heading, what is the purpose of our organization? So, and that way you can easily identify the trades-off. You know. So, for example, if you think that you stick to the conventional sort of model, business model, profit-first mindset, you may see a lot of expenses and sustainability as a cost, you know. So that those are all trades-off. So you quickly avoid all those trades-off. When you put a proposal to your CEO and you put the cost estimate, they immediately say no. Why? Because they put profit first. But if your organizational purpose, we do have a better name for this, vision and mission, perhaps you have heard these. If sustainability is well captured in the vision and mission of the organization, then organizations are very, very flexible with all these trades-off. So, and obviously it is more likely that they make a better decision. A very similar analogy that I can make here is the North Star. Does anyone know here what the North Star is? Before inventing GPS, you know, all those vessels and ships were trying to find the North Star, which was somehow fixed to find out their directions, you know, in the oceans and wherever they were. And that was so crucial. Later on, obviously, GPS was invented and made it really hard for navigation and finding directions. I would like to use that analogy for corporations to first think where they are heading. You know, this is so important. If you really think that you just want to tick that sustainability box, then yes, go ahead, balance those triple bottom line elements. Good luck. So it's maybe you survive in the changing business environment. But if you're very proactive on this, you think, okay, I see 10 years later, 20 years later, like as a lot of our business people have seen, like yesterday, Mr. Danica clearly saw this a few years ago, you know, and went through founding this nice initiative. And now he's essentially doing well. I mean, it was my first time hearing this particular initiative. Was that Helakuru? Yeah. Helakuru. He's one of the successful businessmen here. Likewise, we have the founder of Tesla, Elon Musk. 10, 15 years ago, this guy started producing or thinking even of electric vehicles. He put all his money, efforts. Do you think he did that for money? I don't think so, because 15 years ago, if you had asked a lot of these car producers, they never had invested on these ideas. But he did that, yeah. So the direction is very important. The vision, the way you see the future, determines all these trades off, you know, and when you're heading.
Can I share with you another example, interesting example about the triple bottom line and the new P added purpose. 25 years ago, he started SLIIT. It's a self-funded entity by now, after 25 years. We don't depend on any external funding from the government or other sources. And the society is benefited because we produce quality graduates, and the environment, the university, has a strict policy of going green. And it's very serious when you interact during the fellowship. You will come to know what kind of programs we have implemented inside the university and the purpose. And he clearly mentioned the purpose, the fourth P. And it happened, or it started 25 years back. Thank you. With that, we can conclude the first round and the second round. How best we can use digital technologies to improve what we do, or how digital technologies can be leveraged to improve sustainability. Rathika, technology is accused for making this mess. At the same time, technology has the capability of correcting this as well. People are talking about Industry 4.0 and now Society 5.0. It is how we use technology to do better and build an inclusive society. Any comments on our readiness towards Society 5.0?
Yes, in terms of our readiness, it's difficult for me to measure, and also it's a bit of a longer story. And even just to touch on it, because it's a very sensitive topic as well, if I may say, even if you look at this panel, you already explained this, inclusivity matters. That's what it's talking about. We talked about governance. There cannot be governance without inclusivity, right? So if the benefits of technology accumulate only to those who already have power, we must know that it's a risk designing a super smart society for a very, very small group, because you're leaving out so many. We must ask the harder questions. Who is being optimized for, or who is being optimized out? Efficiency without empathy can reduce people into just being data points. And we see that happening around in many forms. Visible but not valued. Economic growth cannot be measured solely on productivity gains if livelihoods are sacrificed in the process. I think we are experiencing some of that already and realizing the real drastic situation that we are in today. A society is not advanced if automation outpaces human inclusion. Inclusive innovation and accessible design by default. Accessibility is not a favor. It is a prerequisite of justice. We talk about governance, right? Inclusion must be built in a blueprint, at the blueprint stage. It should not be just brought in as an afterthought. Digital transformation without affordability becomes an inclusion at high speed, exclusion at high speed. Innovation must reflect diversity in gender, the ability, the languages, geography, social, economic backgrounds. And there are so many other things that we really need to consider. And all of this matters, and don't take it lightly. Inclusivity is a serious business. So many businesses have fallen into trouble, into difficulty, because they have been slow to move towards inclusivity. And we must understand it is a must. And if you cannot talk about sustainability without governance. And it's a prerequisite.
Thank you, Rathika. Researchers in this forum, DIE is going to be an interesting topic for you to do research. DIE stands for diversity, inclusivity, and equity or equality.
Yeah.
Reverse logistics is an interesting topic where we can use digital technologies to enhance the resilience of supply chains. Any thoughts on this and how do you practice it?
Yes. Yes, Dr. Shanta. First, reverse logistics is that we're utilizing whatever that's sold, coming back to the manufacturers or the brand, going a little bit over what you call corporate social responsibility. We call EPR or extended producer responsibility, right? So with that, coming back, any kind of product, you will have to process it, right? I'll start with a story. My experience, I had the privilege of visiting Sweden last year to see what's happening in that industry, in that country. So one of the research they were doing was they were redoing a laundry inventory management system and trying to identify the return garments problems, right? At that point, I was like, oh, why do you have to do such complex things? You can put a person to do that. So that's until I went out and understood about that country, right? There's no people to do work, right? If you go to a train station, if you travel, there's nobody to check your ticket. You buy your ticket, and if you get caught, yes, but there are not checkers as well. But what it shows is they are thinking about a complete automation in entire industry. Digress a little bit, but going back there, so the idea is computer vision, computer-aided vision to identify problems, and then there was another one where they were using automation to do sewing, right? And not in any area. So if you look at a pant or a shirt, it's where it gets stoned is in places like this, right? So it's hard to reach, right? If you see so the automation is to bring it there, put equivalent piece of fabric and then stitch, then trim it and give it back to the consumer. So that's the level that they're thinking. So there's digitalization. So two examples, and the third one probably is the biggest. I think everybody must have heard about the digital product passport that's coming in, starting with batteries. Second is apparel. A lot happening there. The purpose is for them to identify the product's material. So if you don't know what the material is, which is the biggest struggle right now, how many products you take back, you can't recycle, right? So getting them back. So there's a lot of work going on right now. It has to start, I think, early 2028.
Yeah.
So to bring that data infrastructure into the product stream, very important for the recycling industry. And when you bring it back, then also a lot of work because it comes in mixes. Let's say you know the material, but still you will have buttons, you will have zippers. How do you remove them? And when you have millions of products coming in back to you, it's not easy to do it manually. Yeah. So you need automation to come back.
Okay, reverse logistics can offer multiple opportunities for IT companies who are in this audience. Reverse logistics include returns by customers, reuse, recalls, refurbish, and recycling. So many actions starting with letter R. Think about this when we meet next in various competitions and award ceremonies. If you can show that, look, this is a product we developed with the suggestions you made at ICSDB 2025, then we serve the purpose of this conference. Thank you for your inputs. Mobile penetration in our country has exceeded 150%. Chairman of Sri Lanka Telecom is in this audience. I don't know what the penetration level they are planning for, but use of technology and adoption of technology to serve the nation is quite questionable, isn't it? Any thoughts on this?
So Dr. Shanta, yes. I mean, Sri Lanka has a lot of advantages in terms of fiberization, mobile penetration, even access to undersea cables. All of this, we are doing quite well, right? And we have a lot of advantages. And the way that I see it is all of these advantages of technology and the connectivity that we have, the biggest advantage that we have that we can leverage is data democratization. Now, data democratization doesn't just mean access to data, right? It also means people need to be comfortable with the data. People need to trust it. People need to be able to use it. They need to have the tools to use it, right? Just to use a simple example, right, in terms of achieving net zero as well as with data democratization, right? I'm sure everyone here uses or at least once has used Google Maps, right? Now, when you put an address, your Google Maps route does not default to the fastest route. It defaults to the most eco-friendly route, and it tells you how much percentage of fuel you're going to save. And they use terrain data, traffic data, as well as road smoothness data to come up with that, right? So that is a perfect example of data democracy, right? You don't, every day from work to home, you might take the same route, right? Try Google Mapsing it, and you might end up saving on your fuel bill. And these are the kind of things that people can use and build that comfort with the data, right? Moving on to sort of, we have the mobile penetration, we have the connectivity and all of that. Again, to improve that culture and to build it, right? Again, I'd like to go back to reporting, right? Use all of this to promote reporting. Now, even someone with a feature phone, right? I mean, even smartphone penetration is quite high in Sri Lanka, right? But even someone with a feature phone who is at the level of the dairy farmer, like we saw in an ad, right? Or the coconut farmer, they can do their own reporting as well. And it goes upstream. And in terms of larger companies, in terms of government and utility, you say IT industry, we are huge power consumers, right? The IT industry or even manufacturing, whatever, we consume power and human resource. Wouldn't it be nice to know that the electricity we are buying from CEB, is that coming mostly from solar? What is the carbon cost of the electricity we are buying today? And those kind of things is where we can leverage what we have, this mobile penetration and connectivity, to improve our reporting and sustainability goals.
Thank you. New concepts and practices and even equations and formula are coming to the industry, coming to universities. Have you heard of energy payback? Energy payback can solve most of the problems we face right now. IT companies and other business organizations start paying attention to energy payback. It's like payback period, when you make an investment, how long will it take for you to get returns? Or are the capital recovered? Energy payback, the inflow and outflow, the net. In the interest of time, I have to restrict your explanation to the next question to 2 lines or few lines, please. Okay. Can you explain how culture can play a vital role in the space of sustainability using digital technologies?
All right. So I think I partly addressed this in the keynote as well. So look, culture is the way that our mind is programmed. So all of us sitting here do have our own culture. So for example, earlier we did this lighting, or it does mean a lot in your culture, to someone like me coming from outside, that's a new thing. I need to figure out why you're doing this, So likewise, this is important for sustainability because this word, sustainability, is an outsider word. So you're bringing this, you're asking people to go and be sustainable while they don't really know why should they do that, So what we need to do, perhaps, and this is one of the things that my colleague who's here, my senior mentor, Dr. Sunil Govinage, is really advocating for this. We really need to see what's going on people's mind, We really need to read their mind first to see what they're thinking and then ask them to do something, like sustainability. So in that sense, culture is very important. Reading people's mind, how they think, There are a lot of theories around culture. For example, one of them, which you might know, the Hofstede theory of culture. Can help.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your explanation. We are running out of time, but this is not a paid advertisement. Okay? SLIIT Business School is publishing a large number of journal articles in top-ranked journals, globally reputed ones. The invitation is to the industry, the representatives from the industry. Please collaborate with us. Rather than doing research as we select, as our students select, if you can guide the university, we can definitely do impactful research. If you are wondering about the numbers of research publications, last year SLIIT Business School published close to about 50 Q1 is the best 25%, ranked journal articles. Last year, close to 50. This year, one researcher, the leader, has reached almost 40, one single person. Don't you think that the SLIIT Business School researchers deserve a big round of applause from the audience? And thank you very much, the panel. Despite your busy schedules, you spent a lot of time in researching the topics given. I'm sorry you would have been given more time, but the time given to me was 50 minutes. I restricted it to 40. Now I think we have reached 50. And we need to do justice to the sponsors. Thank you very much, sponsors, for coming forward to make this event a success.